Welcome to another broadcast of On Air with Tony Sweet, Truth Be Told, where we believe an experience becomes truth. Tonight's a great opportunity for us to all dive into the world of voodoo,
witches,
and energy healers. I'm your host, Tony Sweet, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Walt Lusk and world-renowned psychic, Eddie Connor.
Hey, Tony.
Thank you for supporting our sponsors, Conscious Life Expo, by going to ConsciousLifeExpo.com. Get your tickets for the February 2015 event.
And take your mind on a literary journey by traveling over to AdventureSUnlimitedPress.com to purchase many of the books from our famed experts featured on Truth Be Told. Hi, everybody. I'm Eddie Connor. Today, our guest experts are Billy Spanier, Laurie, LoveKraft, and Lou Florez. Lou is an internationally known speaker and lecturer of folk magic traditions of the South. He is a deeply rooted spiritual worker, a high priest and medium who is studied with indigenous elders and medicine holders from around the world.
And Laurie LoveKraft is a priestess, performer, and writer that has been studying the craft for more than 25 years. Laurie is also a teacher in the Reclaiming Traditions. It's an earth-based spiritual tradition rooted in the magic of the goddess.
Billy Spanier is an energy healer from Chicago who was studied under several channels with 10 years of out-of-body travel experience. So please welcome Lou Florez, Laurie LoveKraft, and Billy Spanier. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Happy Halloween show. I'm Eddie Connor.
And I'm Tony Sweet.
And I'm Walt Lusk.
And we're here today. We're going to talk about, like, the Halloween, not just the fun Halloween trick-or-treat and the candy kind of thing like that, but whenever I was a little kid and growing up, you know how they would always have the scary witches, and they would have the ghosts and the goblins, and I grew up in a trailer park, so I had a stepdaddy. So that was scary too.
And right.
Just in Halloween?
Yeah, and the ghost and all this, that kind of thing. Well, what I grew up with was thinking Halloween was really scary and that witches were scary and that people who did root work and hoodoo and voodoo and energy and people who would tune into things around the human body. I thought that was really scary, but I was also fascinated by it. So what we want to do today is demystify all of the scary aspects of Halloween and put real faces from real people who are actual practitioners in this field of work and bring them to the table so that everybody can see them and hear them and understand that it's not a scary thing and that it's more real and realistic than probably most people even realize.
And it's an all year around thing too.
Oh, very good. It is.
Yeah, so, not just one day a year, for goodness sakes.
So we have in studio with us today Laurie LoveKraft, who is a priestess. Accurate.
Ooh.
And we have Billy Spanier, energy worker.
Hi, Billy.
Hello.
And then on our phone in New Orleans, nonetheless, is Mr. Lou Florez, who's a high priest and a root worker.
Hello, Lou.
Hi.
And in the second half of our show, we have Benjamin Scuglia, who's a psychic medium, and he'll be joining us on the second half. So we want to talk with each of our experts today. We want to tell the audience right up front that you're going to get a really special treat because Laurie is going to be sharing later in the show about love spells and giving a little ritual or love spell for the audience. Billy is going to give an energy technique that's going to help you enhance your life at home. And Lou is going to be sharing a money ritual so that you can get tuned in, tapped in, turned on with pure positive energy in the flow of the prosperous universe of all it is. Okay, Lou?
So the bottom
I
line.
love it. And exactly. I'm all about some prosperity and some financial success now.
And so the bottom line is stay tuned and don't touch that dial.
Yeah, don't touch it. Don't touch it. Now, we want to start the show off with our priestess, and we want to ask you about Hecate. And we want to ask you a little bit about All Hallows Eve and sort of bridge right into it and your philosophy on it as a pagan.
Okay, well, happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween.
And we
Welcome
know
to the show.
This will be on sort of living in perpetuity for a while. So for us, which is, Halloween really comes every day, but this is definitely a special time. We call it Samhain. Can you all say that?
Samhain?
Samhain.
Oh,
Samhain.
Salad?
Well, it's if you think of the year as a wheel, okay, Samhain comes after the fall equinox and before winter solstice. So it's kind of like, we call it a cross-quarter holiday. So what is it and why is it? It's a harvest festival. So since many of us who live in this country came from Europe one way or another, certainly not everybody, but my family did. And so I feel particularly drawn to holidays that came out of Western or Eastern Europe. So this was one of those holidays. And this was before toaster ovens, before electricity, before Snuggies and all those things. When the winter, people didn't know if they were going to make it through.
Right.
Oh.
And even through the spring, because they were living in very close quarters. It was cold. It was wet, sometimes snowy. So this was the big last sort of holiday where they were celebrating the crops that they brought in. They were bringing the animals out from the back pastures, and there was the big celebration before they sort of went into the darkness.
That
so
is
this
awesome.
is, for witches, we call this our New Year.
Right.
And it's a harvest festival, but it's also a great time to celebrate and honor our beloved dead.
That
so
is
those who've already
great.
crossed over.
And so when you say honor our beloved dead, that's one of those things that in modern times that would already sort of get people a little nervous. We understand.
Well, isn't that interesting? Our modern society really fears death and fears aging. I mean, here we are in Hollywood. We know.
Right.
That's, and so this is a way to get a little closer to the great unknown, the mystery which we all, nobody gets out of here alive. We know that. So this is a way
And
to
hearses do not pull U-Hauls.
They don't. Think about that. So this is a way to just bring that a little closer, diminish some of that fear and concern. And, a lot of us witches are really contrarian, so let's celebrate it, knowing that, again, nobody gets out of here alive. I wore my stripy witchy socks for you guys.
Oh, that's so
cool.
And
Very nice.
It's a time to put on the costumes, whether you're young or old, and to get out there and sort of be ghost-like, or sort of, tickle a ghost, because really we're all going to be ghosts at some point, regardless of whatever mythology or pantheon or whatever you believe to be your root tradition. Whether you come back or whether you, so long and no next life, we're all going to be there at some point. So this is a way to sort of dance with that. And
So a
take some of the
celebration.
fear away. Celebration.
I love that.
That's
Lots
awesome.
of parties, lots of
Right.
altars and skulls and candy, and you put pictures of your beloved dead, like Dia de los Muertos. It might not be your ancestors. It might be somebody who inspired you, a political activist, a hero, etc. So my altar at home has all kinds of people. We have animals. We have children who've passed away.
Yeah.
People who are blood relatives, but also we have Cesar Chavez on our altar, people who've really inspired our family.
I love that. And the law of attraction in my little spiritual world, we call that merging and becoming one with certain energies and certain philosophies. So when you have that visual aspect of it and you can look at it, you can get everything aligned with it. So I love that philosophy.
Well, it doesn't have to be people that you don't like.
Right.
You don't want to merge with someone who had
Yeah.
done you wrong
Right.
or who didn't inspire you. You don't like in this life. If you didn't like them, you don't have to celebrate them in the afterlife.
Right.
either.
So if you walk into somebody's house and they have an altar to Jeffrey Dahmer, you just leave
You just leave.
quickly with your head,
Right.
with your wits
Yeah.
about you.
Yeah.
And so,
And
so Lou, I wanted to ask.
At least.
Yeah. So Lou, tell everybody what it is you do and how you do what you do in a few sentences.
Absolutely. Well, I am a hoodoo worker, which is basically the folk tradition of the South. And basically what happens in the South is that during slavery times, several different ethnic groups, both, the enslaved Africans as well as the Irish and a lot of other, European traditions come together and start talking and start dialoguing because at some point, all these people were oppressed, or that they felt that they didn't have the access that they needed. And so what do? You go to spirit. And so that's one of my core traditions. As well as I'm an Ifa priest, which is one of the founding traditions of like Voodoo and Santeria. It's based out of Nigeria in Western Africa, from the Yoruba people. And it's all around being in balance with both yourself and your higher spirit, which is called the Ori, as well as the universe at large. And how do you create that balance, both through behavior modification, things that I can, stop doing, which are, not necessarily negative, but cause me to be a little bit out of whack, as well as offerings. So, what can I share with spirit? What can I share with my, close circle of friends to really engage that, very much like the law of attraction? How can I share my wealth in order to build it, right?
Wow.
And so, and a lot of these traditions speak to, spell work as tangible prayer. So what can I use around me to create the most poignant change? How can I see what the environment inherently holds and use that as a catalyst for what I'm trying to create for myself?
Man, what's the biggest misconception when people find out the work that you do, when they hear words like voodoo and root work and hoodoo and that sort of thing? What's the biggest misconception they have at first until they get to know you a little bit?
Well, I think people have, that connotation of black magic, or, let me curse somebody or let me kill somebody, and, that type of Hollywood version of what witches or what, the spiritual world outside of, like, regular Christianity or the Big Five looks like. And so, I don't go running around with, like, bone through my nose, and I speak perfect English. I actually went, have a BA and, teach in the university circuit as well. And so there's a lot of inherent, both like some racism, just to call it out, in terms of how we see, other traditions outside of the Western norm. But also I think that there's an openness and a want to learn, because you see so many people, both online and through, just talking to me who, have had experiences with, the Orisha or these spirits that are, in these traditions, and want to know how, why they're calling to them. If this is a negative tradition, then why is this, spirit calling for healing, or, that kind of work. So I think it's really about education and just seeing people as human, and and really being able to see the beauty in the traditions that we all share.
You know what I find fascinating, because we live in Hollywood, and I love horror movies and anything to do with the paranormal, and I think it's funny that people really, that's what attracts them to the movies. That's what attracts them to read books. That's what attracts them to listen to shows like this. But yet when you meet somebody in person or know somebody in real life, it's almost like, oh my God, stay away from them, because they're scared. And I think that this way, listening to the show, watching a movie, reading a book, is because they're looking outside of their, they can look through the glass window and not feel like they're like being possessed or being affected by it.
Yes, what?
Exactly. And I think at the end of the day, it's all about, our access to our own agency.
Right.
How can we really, bring in the power that we inherently have and work with it so that way we're manifesting what we want. And whether that's through, my ritual offerings, or whether that's through a spell that Laurie would give you, or an energetic technique, or the law of attraction, or what have you, it's all different ideas of how to bring that in.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I love that. And what we're talking a lot about, too, is harnessing the non-physical aspect of ourselves, the soul, if you want to call it that, the aura, the electromagnetic field, I think the scientific community calls it, and utilizing all aspects of you to create the kind of life that you really want, literally utilizing your non-physical self and your physical self. Mm-hmm. And speaking of that, Billy, our energy healer, what is it that, and I'm going to ask, I love asking all of you this question, what is the biggest misconception when people meet you and then they see you and then they say, what do you do? And you go, oh, well, I'm an energy healer. So how do they respond?
They usually expect me to light stage and dance around with feathers on my head. And
Do you? I was kidding.
Talking in metaphors and being really aloof is pretty common when people think that's how you're gonna speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I just dress normal, like black pants, white shirt, dress shoes. That's it.
Yeah.
And then I come, and people are usually pretty surprised. And yeah, and they're because you see depictions in movies and on TV, and even people that really exist, and they're dancing around and they're doing crazy things and yelling and stuff like that. But it's not like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be.
So you actually, as an energy healer, you redirect
Right.
their energy.
Well, I redirect energy from other places. It could be pretty much anywhere. It just depends on the moment and what it calls for. It could be different groups. It could be different sources. It could just be through me. It could be through them. It could be through a higher version of their selves along with myself. It goes on and on. It's staying in the moment is very important, because you don't want to make something happen. You just want it to happen naturally. So that's an important part of energy work.
So for all three of you, when you're doing spells or working with somebody one-on-one, this is more of a one-on-one question. And I know Billy personally, and he works on me a lot, thank God. And
Thank
Lou,
Goddess.
yeah. Oh, there you go. That was good. And Lou has read for me many times. Don't you tell them nothing, Lou. And so I have firsthand experience with these two gentlemen, and I haven't had a chance to connect with you in that way. But I would like to ask all three of you, what is it you find the most difficult when you're working with a person who is stuck or blocked? And how do you redirect the energy, or how do you even sustain your own vibration so you don't get pulled down in their knot of energy? I'll ask Laurie
Everybody's
first.
staring at me.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, I really liked what Billy just said, that it's not about doing. I mean, it's really about just being with. I sort of translated what you said, but
Sure.
that's how it landed for me. Well, you can't, I mean, everybody has their own personal experience. Everybody has their own sovereignty. So if I'm with somebody, you're with them where they're at. If they want to be here, I mean, you were talking about the law of attraction.
Yes.
And so Abraham Hicks and that whole world talks about, if you want to get here,
Law of
you have
attraction.
to work your way up. You're not
Right.
just going to jump.
It's a process.
Right?
It's a journey.
It is. So you're with people as they work their way up. You meet them wherever they're at. So if they're
Yes.
healing from a broken heart and they want to create the best love in their life or lives,
Yes.
then you've got to be with them where they're at. So you help them heal their heart.
It-
But they do it themselves.
Right.
I don't.
You don't
It's
do,
not
you do
like
it with them. You
dooming
don't do it for
paganism.
it.
Like they
Yeah.
do it for themselves,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then you support them.
Yeah.
that
So
way.
what we're doing all is holding the space. I'll often say when somebody comes in, oftentimes when somebody has a broken heart and they want to sometimes jump right into a brand new relationship that's like 10 times better than the one they came out of, they're not holding that space yet. And so I think, if I hear this correctly, you're holding the space here for them and giving them the tools to raise themselves up in their way. And you guys do it in an unconditionally loving way. So it's which means non-judging and just sort of not critiquing them, just being in that space, which helps them elevate up if they choose to.
One thing we talk about in my tradition, which is the reclaiming tradition, is having ruthless compassion. So you're with them, but if they begin to whine or complain, you're just holding them up to a higher standard of love and acceptance. And again, you bringing them back. And some people, they're not ready, and they're at where they are, and they maybe need to do something else. They maybe need to go and do a meditation retreat or do something very internal and private before they're able to then come back and receive what they're really wanting. They need to the paths can sometimes be very circuitous.
And a lot
It's
of
never a straight line.
yeah, and most people
No straight here.
Yeah. Well, most people don't understand that we create our lives from the inside out. Our thoughts, our feelings, our frequencies, our vibration. And a lot of what you guys do is you go in and you can see that, sense it, feel it, raise it up, or help them to raise it up.
Well,
I do wanna
success is an inside job.
I want to say what Billy was saying earlier. I like to do both. I can be very private, very quiet. You won't know anything that's happening inside. But I'm also a sensualist. I like the drumming. I like the music. I like the sage, although not too much.
No, I like sage too.
Of course.
It's not an absolute.
Exactly. And so I discovered that about myself after I got to be very, very quiet and very still, and I realized I'm kind of missing something. And so I like having the decorations, and I like having that, but I also know these are just props. They're helping us get there, but this is not spirit.
Right.
You know, this is a flower that's going to wilt and die. Yes, that is the cycle of life, but this is not spirit. This is just an abstract item, and we are all one.
And they're reminders. They're reminders. So when you see your altar and certain people and beings on it, the energy around it, they're just reminders to stay up here from the inside out instead of waffling from the inside out. Lou, I want to ask you, and then I want to go to Billy. What would be the toughest, not client, but toughest situation you've had to help somebody raise themselves up and out of? If you can talk about it without being specific about who it was.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody comes to me as a diviner. You know this.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether it's the homeless person on the side of the street or the mayor's wife. Everybody is always coming for readings. And one of the most difficult challenges that I've been working with recently has been with a couple of different women who have been sex workers. And that served them for a while. That was absolutely what they, felt that they needed to do at that point. But they're no longer interested in that lifestyle. So it's how to, A, get the resources to, find them different opportunities so that way they're able to make money. B, be able to help them with that transition, both in terms of protection work, so that way any of their former associates don't come after them. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
As well as C, hold up the idea that this is important, that they don't have to be mired in that world if they don't want to be, and not that sex and sex work isn't, it can't be beautiful, but you know what I'm talking about, that specific place where it becomes, a burden on the soul. So there have been a number of those cases recently, in terms of helping people transition out of toxic situations which once served them, but no longer do that,
I love that. And you're helping, all of you are helping people bridge higher and higher and higher, so that each step up they go, they sort of build a more solid platform so that they don't backslide whenever there's a crisis or something that happens, right?
Right.
Exactly. And it's not about my idea of what they need.
Exactly.
It's about what they choose to direct their energy towards, and how can I, as an advocate for that, use my resource to help them.
Wow. You know what fascinates me? Haven't you found, all of you that do this work, don't you find that you become a better person yourself?
It's impossible not to.
Yeah. If you're authentic, it would be impossible not to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Because how can you see, how can you, see other people's, pain and anguish and not work through your own? If you can't hold your own, you can't hold anybody else's.
What I know about healers is oftentimes we'll usually pick try to cram 5 lifetimes into one lifetime.
Right.
And our first 20 or 25 years or more on this planet is usually sheer flipping hell. And so something usually happens to put us through like dark stuff, and then we come into our own light, and then all we kind of want to do is unconditionally facilitate that with other people of like mind. So
it speeds up the process too, going through like really dark downtime in the first 25 years of your life. Like it accelerates you in a way. That's not absolute either, but it was with me. It just made things go quicker. It made me develop quicker, and then you come out of it, and it's a lot better.
When you were...
I think that, whenever we're presented with that, we have two choices: either to go after our own healing or to just go ape crazy, and be in the substitute. And we see so many who are healers or who, have those gifts who tumble and crush under the weight of it because they didn't have people who they could, work with, or, found the opportunities to go towards their own life.
I love that. And I also love it because what I think all of you do is you hold the space, and I've said it, but this is a different way. You hold the space where they trust themselves to get to a higher elevated place. Now, I know all of you probably work with energies. whether it's archangels, master teachers, light beings, whatever it is. Wanted to ask
goddesses.
Yes.
I'm the only girl here, everybody. I gotta
Don't
speak up.
Don't
Yeah,
forget.
yeah, well, I love that you are. And so let's, Billy, I want to go back over to you. If you feel comfortable with it, what was your wake-up point?
My wake-up point. I was in a car accident when I was about 19 years old, and it was a whole thing where I flew out of the car, and the car should have crushed me. It barrel rolled, and severe concussion and all of that. And then after that, I started to have like bodily disconnections. I started to kind of like learn about and as well as have out-of-body experiences, and this went on is still going on, but back then it went on a lot. And then when I would roll out of my body back then, it was higher than the physical, I guess, but it was still a very low plane. So the beings that I was interacting with were like, that's when it was like dead people and negative entities and stuff like that. It was a very scary time. But eventually, like, as I learned and people found me and started to teach me things, I started to raise my own vibration. And now, like, I don't really even encounter that, like, in myself anymore, more like in other people, but it's much higher than it used to be, and abstract, which makes it a lot harder to actually describe to someone. But it's a lot funner now, let's put it that way.
Well, and even if that hadn't happened, in everyday living, when you're just banging around on the earth plane, just doing your thing day in, day out, every single person that comes to us, every single situation, whatever it is a perfect match to whatever of our current energy, but also what our soul's purpose is about too. So even when you're here, we're doing that work, but as you guys wake up and you become more conscious and you're playing with the energies in other dimensions, it's just like you'll get some people you don't like in the lower dimensions and some of the people that you do like. But when you raise your vibration, you don't have to deal with that part as much.
And going through like all that lower vibrational stuff it's kind of like a fear boot camp. So like now when you face with something that'll scare you, or when I'm faced with something that would scare me, it's a lot easier to not be scared, which makes the experience that much more like beneficial. And instead of like closing down the experience, I kind of break through the experience. And I had to face all that scary stuff early on in order to know like how to not let it affect me as much. I'm not going to say it absolutely does not affect me, because there's some things that still can spook me, but it's much less now.
Same here. Like if I see a Prius, it freaks me out. I still don't do good with a Prius. I don't know what the problem is with that. Now I'm totally picking. But if I see a Prius on the freeway, I just want to go, get out of my life. How did I create that? If you're just tuning in, you're listening to On Air with Tony Sweet. This is our Truth Be Told show. And it is a Halloween show, but it's also about bringing light and higher consciousness into a reality around Halloween that most of us don't talk about. I'm Eddie Connor.
I'm Tony Sweet.
I'm Walt Lusk.
And we have our guest in-house. We have Florez. He's down in New Orleans doing his voodoo work. Okay. He's a high priest and a root worker. We have Billy Spanier here, who is an energy worker. We have Laurie, LoveKraft, priestess. And I want to ask you.
And goddess.
Yes. I want to ask you, just channel the essence for you personally of the energy of what goddess is for us boys and us boys in the audience.
So we don't make that mistake.
Well, I have to say, I'm sorry, we all have that energy inside of all of us, regardless of however we identify our gender, which is very fluid, as many people are coming to realize, our sexual orientation, etc. We all have that element or those qualities within us. And unfortunately, the goddess has 1,000 faces.
Yeah.
So which face do you want? Do you want the mother goddess? Do you want the maiden virgin goddess? Do you want the crone? Do you want the vanquisher? Do you want the online shopper? Like, which goddess are you interested in? Do you want the goddess Hecate, since this is a Halloween show? So in paganism, and those who are involved with Wicca, the craft, whatever, there's many different names, earth-based spirituality, which is my thing. We tend to not have this duality where if it's dark, it's bad, and if it's light, it's good. We sort of have this joke of like, oh, the light magic, fluffy bunny, oh, everything's perfect, and your unicorns and rainbows. And that's all wonderful, and it feels really good. But we also are interested in and are drawn to the underworld because it exists. Doesn't mean we have to sort of hang out there all the time and sort of have commerce with all of these critters. And I like to call them critters because it takes the power away. It's like a raccoon. It's just a critter.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't say, oh, that succubus or that
Demon.
incubus, right? Because it gives way too much power. They like that. We don't want to give them all that power.
I like
because we have the bodies. We are all spirits in bodies. We got the body. That's the game on this planet. Like, to get the bodies. We've got them. Let's not give any of those disembodied spirits any more power than they already have or want. So if we talk about Halloween and Hecate, this Greek, pre-Olympian Greek goddess, she rules the night. Most people think that she's this crone because that's how we've seen her since Shakespeare.
Yes.
But really, she is much more than that. She was actually a maiden goddess. If you look at some of the ancient artwork, she often has like a shorter skirt, like a maiden skirt, almost like Artemis, who's a huntress goddess. So she wasn't always this old ancient woman, and who knows back then the life cycle of people, maybe they didn't even get to be older people. I don't think we know, but regardless, we don't cast off a deity or a goddess just because she's got a little darkness about her, just because she has commerce with the dead or can help people in the underworld. Actually, that's a good thing. Healing and comfort for spirits who've crossed over and who might be lost, stuck at the crossroads. That's a good thing. We all want a little helping hand as we're moving through to the next phase. So we like the underworld, but also, we don't want to stay there all the time because when it's the height of summer, like, I'm not thinking about the underworld. I'm thinking about other things.
Yeah, that drum beat.
Right.
So how did all of you get to have such a good sense of humor? Did you have the good sense of humor before the car accident?
Yeah, I would say that I did. And also, like, people, especially people you grew up with, kind of poking fun at you for what you're doing now, kind of gives you a thick skin and a good sense of humor as well, especially about this subject.
Yeah. Lou, how about you? How did you develop your sense of humor? Were you born with it, or did you have to cultivate it?
Well, I mean, it was a little bit of the cultivation, let me be honest with you. I was a pretty serious child. And it wasn't until I was really just able to laugh from the gut that things move and shake free. And I was really able to release a lot of the inward demons. And as a root worker, we work with tangible things. So usually I get personal concerns, items which somebody held, or, like hair, clothing, things like that, to make that connection in terms of the prayer work, the spell work that I'm doing for somebody. So I remember, 5 years ago, opening up a package from a client, and, I got a left shoe and a cum rag. And, what do you do with that? You know what I mean? Like, really, like, at the end of the day, you just have to laugh, because if you don't, you're going to go absolutely insane,
Wow. Yeah. Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.
Really, this is what I look forward to in my mail, is a left shoe and a cum rag.
That is hysterical. So, what
can I just add to that?
Yes.
So magic is very serious.
Yes.
Okay. Because this is our lives we're talking about. These are the things that we love. It's making rent. For those of us who are environmental activists like myself, we're working to save forests,
the planet,
and ecosystems. I mean, seriously, that's some of the work that we do. And that low, serious energy, it's very hard to move. That's like molasses in winter. It's very sluggish. So we sort of juice it up.
Yeah.
We use amusement as a tool. Sometimes at the end of my rituals, we'll just have everybody fake amusement, fake laughter, because then you start to really laugh and it lightens it up, and then you can actually move. Energy actually moves faster when it's light and bubbly and effervescent.
It sure
does.
does.
We use that even when we're being very, very serious.
I use it when I'm doing readings. Sometimes people come in and they're stuck in a certain category, and if you can get them to laugh, their energy starts to bubble up, as you say, and starts to flow a little bit easier. Billy, I wanted to ask.
I want to.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, your guides and higher beings as well have like a sort of sarcastic sense of humor a lot too. I remember one time I was surrounded by a lot of dark energy, and I asked one of my guides to take it away. He said no. I said, why? He said, because there's darkness in everyone. And I was like, ah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like deal with it yourself. Like, this is one specific instance. It's not always like that, but
So tell us, explain to the audience what you do. A lot of astral out-of-body travel.
Sure.
Just break it down in layman's terms for the the person sitting in the Midwest eating bonbons and watching a rerun of Oprah, going, "What?" Yeah.
It's a conscious disconnection from your physical body. It could also be subconscious. Like, it could happen spontaneously. But I like to do it consciously, where I know where I start and I know where I end. Like, sometimes if you can't keep your wits about you 100%, then your subconscious starts to create things around you. So I disconnect from my body and I leave the room. If it's close to the physical, I leave the room and I go interact with things, and I go to different places. People take me places and see different things. The first time I ever had an out-of-body experience purposely is after I learned that you could do this on purpose. And then I studied several different techniques. I went to bed and I tried them all night. Didn't work. The next morning, what I discovered in the morning, your mind is hardly working, your body's hardly working. And if you know subconsciously, like, because you practice it so much, to do these tricks to disengage from your body, it'll happen. And the first time that it ever happened, I turned on my energy body, which feels like being electrocuted with no pain. And then I rolled out of my body, which is the sloppiest technique you could possibly do, because you kind of like stumble all over the place. And then I walked into our living room. I was living with 3 people at the time, and there were 3 people standing at attention and 1 person with his back to me. And of course, being my first time, the first question I have to ask is, are you my guides? And the 3 people stood there at attention, didn't say anything. The 4th person who has back to me turned to me and said yes, and I was snapped back in my body, and I was hyperventilating and all that stuff. Now, something that gave me a good perspective on how time works is about 4 or 5 years later, I was in a channeling class in Chicago, learning how to channel, and it was me and 4 other people in a circle, and we had our full body channel who was guiding us through an exercise in which we're connecting with a higher version of ourselves. The higher version of ourselves was going to show us something. So we're all sitting there for about 20 minutes, and then the higher version of myself takes me to a place, and it's in that same living room. And then I see myself come in the living room stumbling in, and then ask myself if I'm your guides, and then I answered yes, and then it just sent me back to my body.
Wow.
And that was it. And that's like one of the crazier things that have happened.
Deja vu.
Yeah, so that shows you like how there are more evolved versions of yourself helping you, like every step along the way.
That's great.
That's so
Yeah.
great.
I had something similar to that happen. Complete daytime. My car had broken down. I called my friend Tim to come and help me get it situated. And while I was standing there by the car, after I'd already called him, that's before cell phones. It's when dinosaurs were on the planet, actually. And I was standing there at the car, and I looked over, and I saw me walk out from behind my car where I had been standing and walk across the street, jump up on the sidewalk, walk down the street, look over its shoulder at me, and then disappeared. And it was me. And I had to literally touch myself like, what the F just happened here? So that, I mean, it's just crazy things, but it's not crazy when we tune into it on the higher level and we build and build and build those muscles of consciousness.
And it's important to know that you don't have it all figured out, and you don't know exactly how it works, and you just keep learning and learning as it goes on. It just doesn't end. That's why it's so fun, because it doesn't end.
That's the fun part. Well, it's eternal. It's eternal, Goddess. Now, we promised you at the top of the show that we were going to ask Laurie, Billy, and Lou to share something with us that you at home could use and do to enhance the quality of your life. And I think we should go with ladies first.
Ladies
And so
first.
we would like
Goddesses
to ask
first.
you, yes, a love spell or a love ritual, whether it's self-love and or a love for somebody else or something else.
Well, I just want to say how much fun this is.
Isn't
I'm
it
just
fun?
enjoying this so much. And so for people who are listening or watching, I just invite you to tap into whatever you can get from what we're experiencing, which is fun and kinship and friendship, even though some of us have just met. Actually, most of us have just met. So, so in terms of love. Like, I don't do love spells, you
Yes.
guys. I think that's unwise. Instead, if you're looking for love, and we're going to talk about self-love in a moment, but if you're looking for love, turn it back to yourself. If your relationships aren't working, then see a therapist.
Yep.
Do a women's class. Do a men's class. Start a dream journal. Like, really start to work on, like, well, your blind spot. Like, something's not working. You know, I'm this age and I don't have what it is that I want. You know, look at your life. If it's not how you want it, you're the only one responsible. You know, we're not victims in this life. So let's do something about it. So in terms of self-love.
Love that.
Okay. But you know, there's also, like, you can go to any of the wonderful independently owned magical shops around the U.S. and you can get candles and oils and bath salts, and that's all great. And those can help you get what you want. But again, it's not about somebody out there doing it for you. In my opinion, it's really about taking that responsibility. So in terms of self-love, working with a goddess, so Lou, I'm a big fan of Yemaya, the goddess of the ocean. So we're going to talk about Yemaya, or Inanna, who's a Sumerian love goddess, or Mary. So for those of us out there who aren't quite ready to totally let go of your Christian upbringing, or if you're Jewish, your Shekinah, or whatever that is, you can work with a goddess who's from your root tradition. So let's say Mary or Inanna or Yemaya. So do a little homework, go online, go to the library if you can find one, and start looking, do some research, look up which deity feels most close to you. So pick your goddess. So let's say it's going to be Yemaya, the goddess of the ocean. Okay. If you think about, and I wrote a piece for the Huffington Post about Beyonce as sort of the Aphrodite of our time, but she's really kind of Yemaya. She's curvy. She knows herself and her body. So you want to get into that love, not an outward projection, but that inward love. Draw a bath. If you don't have a bath, get your shower going. You're going to want to get some herbs, maybe some lavender, which is very soothing. Do a little research, see which herbs call to you. Get some crystals like some rose quartz. And as you draw your bath, you put your herbs in, put them in like a bundle so you don't mess up your bathtub. If you're wanting to take a shower, then you can boil those herbs. And ahead of time, cool them down a little bit. You want to bring it next to your bath. I'm looking over at you
Billy.
for some reason, Billy. I want to include everybody. I feel like we're sort of gathered around a campfire or a cauldron here. We're going to talk about all this. And then as you're preparing to go into your bath, your shower, I want you to say to yourself, I love myself, over and over and over and over again. I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. You could say, I love you, as if you're talking to yourself. I love myself, because I don't want it to be an outward you. I really want that. And I'm a mom, so I'm always outward facing. So I find it's helpful to just, I love myself, over and over and over again. And as you're taking your bath and it's running in the background, you're taking your shower over and over, you just want to relax and sink into that. It's a very, very simple spell, but it's also very powerful. So take a 15 or 10-minute bath. Towel off, put some lotion on, I love myself, and then sit. If you're working with Mary or Inanna or Yemaya and you want to think about them, you might want to print out a picture and just sort of get in that energy. It's very simple. But throughout the day, as you find negative things filling in your mind, if you're in traffic, you stub your toe, whatever it is, that's what I love myself. You want to juice it up, raise the energy of self-love. Now that's a very, very, very simple spell. But you can light a candle. There's many things. It's really helpful if I'm working with one person or if I'm teaching a class talking about something specific. But that's a very simple spell to generate that inner wholeness and love. And then from there, then we move through our lives, and then we'd be surprised at what we can create. And nobody's perfect. Certainly, it's never ending. You come around this, we like to talk about the spiral. You come around, oh, okay, and here it is again, but now I have different tools. Oh, I stubbed my toe again, but this time I'm celebrating my toe. And then the next time, I'm actually going to step around the item that I banged into. And that's what we're going for, is this self-awareness.
Reprogramming, because we say all kinds of ugly things to ourselves about ourselves all day long. And this is a conscious way to go back in and turn it back in on ourselves and elevate. Thank you for that.
That's great.
Thank you.
And Lou, let me ask you, what is a wonderful money ritual that the listeners can do to enhance their prosperity consciousness?
Absolutely. Well, since we're in the season of working with the dead and the beloved dead, what I thought, or what I wanted to share with the listeners today is a real simple way of working the ancestors to bring in money. And what I mean by working the ancestors or working is engaging, all parts of ourselves on all levels and really speaking out what we're looking for, what we're trying to create. And in a lot of earth-based traditions, it's not just the inward prayer, it's the outward expression of what that prayer, is about. And so, for this ritual, you'll just need a glass of water, and it's based on a 9-day, kind of like cycle. And what you do is you fill the glass of water, you go outside at sunrise, because the sunrise is the beginning of the day. It's also, that place of manifestation from, the place of night into, the growing of the day, and the warmth of the day. And you're literally going to call out to your beloved ancestors. And you're going to, ask them whether, you just call out individually their names or, as a whole, the collective, ancestors of where you come from. And it's extremely simple. And the water represents, the womb. It represents the life force. It represents, your being. And it's literally of just giving water. And so what you do is you take a glass of water, you go outside, and you slowly start to pour little by little that glass out onto the earth. And you say, everything that I am, everything that has, created me, everything that I have as part of my being, I offer to you. And with this offering, I ask for, the prosperity, the abundance, whatever it is. You can specifically ask for an amount of money, or if you're just looking to create, and generate money for yourself, you can be as detail-oriented or as, just kind of etheric as you want to be. And over this 9 days, you do this at the same time every day. And you'll notice, every day, more of your ancestral core starting to show up. So, the initial day, it's usually like the ones that you knew, the ones that were very present in your life. And then from there, it's almost like this tree. They start hearing the bell, and they start coming. And so by the end of the 9th day, if you're able to see or, just that feeling that you feel whenever spirit's around you, you're, completely encircled by your ancestral core, and they're there to work on your behalf. Because I was always told that, spirit needs us as much as we need them. They need us to remember them, to take care of them, to, remember their stories, and it's that type of energy. And so as you work with them, they start to feed us in return. And by the end of the 9th day, whatever you're trying to manifest for yourself, whatever your wish is there. Or the opportunity arrives. And so that's a real simple prosperity ritual, and it can also be used for other things such as love or, protection or what have you. But it's all about, the simplest form of prayer can be the most poignant and the most powerful at times.
I think so too. I can't remember who said it, but if the only prayer you ever say is thank you, that would suffice. Master Eckhart, that's who said it. And I think so too. And I thank you for sharing that. And why 9 days? I know it's to
the 9 days in a lot of the Afro-Caribbean traditions, and specifically like Ifa and Voodoo, the 9 represents the number of the dead.
Oh.
And so you'll notice, or at least for me at least, there's always that like 9 energy around whenever the ancestors or the dead walk around. Usually I'll find like 9 pennies throughout the day, or if I'm doing a real big channeling session, that there'll be 9 candles, like things like that, because it represents that how would I put this, like that gateway between 0 and 10.
Oh yeah.
And so 9 is that number before the next version or the next generation start again, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. Thank you for sharing that. Mr. Billy, the energy healer, what's a technique the listeners can use to enhance their energy field?
Okay, this is a technique to, it clears out your field as well as has you use a more parts of your brain than you normally do, and it also can be used for protection. So what you do, whether you're sitting or standing, is you visualize a plank in front of your body as tall as you are, depending on whether you're sitting or standing, and it's about 2 or 3 feet in front of your body. You visualize it right in front of you, and then you start rotating it clockwise to the right, around your body, and it goes, to your side and to your back and to your left side and to your front, and you keep rotating it around in a circle about 2 feet in front of you. And you imagine that there are filaments or bands connecting that plank to your spine as it's going around. And as you start to get the hang of it, you should do this for about a half hour. Like, it's very important to have persistence with stuff like this. And as you keep going around, you start to speed it up. And as you speed it up, the plank starts to extend out further. And the faster you go, the further out it goes. And what this is doing is clearing out your field and clearing out the room. And then once you have that going for about a half hour, you could bring it back to about 2 feet, 2 or 3 feet in front of you. And now instead of there being bands connected to the plank, you can imagine like a sheet or a blanket. And then you rotate it clockwise around your body. And as it goes around each time, it's creating a layer on your body, on your physical body or energetic body, however you want to put it. And you just keep going around in circles depending on how many layers you need or how protected you feel like you need to be. You can go around 1,000 times, 100,000 times. And as the layers get thicker, the plank goes out further. You just keep doing this, and you build up a nice thick shield. And it's a very good technique for protection and clearing.
Were you seeing that as you were describing
Yeah.
it? You could see you see it.
Right.
It was interesting, wasn't it? So thank you for sharing that. And I was seeing it from like up here. It was a lot of fun. And all of you have like sparkly lights around you. I can't see you, Lou, but I know you sparkle, okay? But there's like wonderful red and blue lights flashing in here. And it seems to be more and more of that. And you ought to be seeing them now that you went to the Lisa Williams.
I saw them actually when we first started. It was like over here. I was like, what was that?
Yeah, the energy starts coming in. And so I want to ask you guys one last question, and then talk to the audience about how they can get in touch with you, where they can find you as writers, as teachers, as speakers, as healers, as goddesses, and pagan rituals and voodoo and root working. What made you want to teach this, Laurie?
Can I go last?
Yes. So, Lou, what makes you want to teach this work to the world?
Part of it is it's just who I am. Like, I can't be authentic in who I am and not just do what I do. And I think that in terms of being able to be an advocate and speak about what these traditions really look like, once again, versus the fantasy or versus the Hollywood, idea of what magic is. And while, yes, I would love to, shoot flames, out my fingers and all that kind of stuff, what I've really learned is how to heal myself. And I think that people are hungry for that, and that people are running all over the place to get an idea of how to do this type of work. And, this is how I work, and if this is helpful for other people, absolutely great. And then the other thing, around this for me is also around letting people know that they're not alone and they're not crazy, because I think that so many people have these types of experiences and don't know what to make out of it, and so just shut down. And that's why you see, people who have no roots, who are just, kind of just being in the earth just to kind of get what they can now and run, because they don't have that connection, or they once did, but they forgot that it existed because nobody, told them that was important.
I love that. I love that. I absolutely love it. And I'm finding that more people who would have normally never even been privy to this or interested in it are leaning into it more now in the last 4 or 5 years than I've seen in my entire life, because they're willing to try anything now that will work. And then once they find out about it, they're like, this is way more normal than I even knew that it was. So why do you want to teach this and share it with the world, Billy?
It's important to help people, and the more you help people, the more you help yourself, and we all move forward together. And and like you said, it's important for people to know that they're not crazy, that this is a real thing that's happening, and these people are all over the place. And it's just healing. It's just fun to heal people, and it's beneficial, and it makes you feel good about yourself and for them, and it's win-win. And I guess it's who I am now, but it's it's more who I've become this instead of, I mean, I wasn't this before, but I am now.
Yeah.
And this is what makes it's what excites me. It's following my excitement.
And have you guys all found that since you've been doing this, I call it my life purpose, since you've been doing this aspect of your life purpose, that you build a community that you never knew existed before you got into this work?
Sure.
That's one of my favorite parts. Laurie?
Ditto to both of you said. And I really like empowering women and men. And especially in the magical goddess or Wiccan, witchcraft, priestess community around the U.S. at a lot of these events, whether it's a New Age expo or what have you, there's a lot of women.
Yes, always have been.
And there's men, of course, but so I really like empowering women and their allies. I also like, it's our own healing journey, that saying heal or heal thyself, but also helping others heal, so giving them the tools. And I'm a real action kind of person, and so my tradition, the reclaiming tradition, is about justice in all of its forms: social justice, environmental, economic, etc. And so these are tools where people can seek out justice in their own lives. Maybe it's in their family, maybe it's in their workplace, or maybe it's in relationship to whatever critters are hanging out in their heads where they can get their sovereignty back. So there you go.
I love that.
And it's fun. It's really fun.
I find that women, that's my target audience. If I were a left-brain businessman, my demographic would be women between the age of 24 and 58. I respond to the feminine energy in that way. Well, because I think I have a good balance of male-female energy, honestly. I love women's energy because they're more open to express their emotional part, and you can tune into their heart chakra. Their heart is usually more open than most men's are. Yep. And then that's whenever the really ebb and flow part of it starts in a live setting. That's my favorite thing on the planet.
The majority of my clients are females, and in the channeling classes that I've taken, I've always been the only guy.
Yeah.
So
lucky you.
Yeah, you're the enigma, as it were.
It was so horrible.
Yeah. I bet you were devastated.
It's really interesting in the business world and in politics, as you see more women coming into that. Sometimes they're actually less. Their female energy has to get dialed down so much that they're actually, if you watch them, they're actually very wounded, as you see a lot of these women on television, or if you encounter them in a meeting or on a conference call. And so that's a big wounding for women today. So how do we bring these tools that we're talking about today to the business world,
to corporate
politics,
America? They need
to
it
corporate
so
America.
bad.
And what would it look like if the women and men running those large corporations that are actually controlling the planet, if they had a little bit of their feminine side, their nurturing side, what would our world be like?
I think it would be 1,000%. Yeah, it would be 1,000% better if the men would just wake up to that part and not be scared to go to the proctologist. I'm joking. So,
well, I think that's an inherent part of our work, is to look at the ways in which we socialize. Because I don't think that any of these are inherent. Like, I don't think that women are naturally born with an more open heart than men, but we inherently socialize, the little boys in our lives to shut down, to become numb, to, be those soldiers who use their body only for work and labor, and what else is there, as well as on the other flip side, where women are the only, caretakers and the nurturers. And I think, all these traditions talk about the plurality of experience that we get to have, and how, freaking ridiculous is it that we only get an inch of that because of the way that we're socialized into thinking of, what's right and what's appropriate.
Exactly. Right? That's so well said.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you can feel the essence of community even building across the airwaves, as it were. Literally, you can feel it. So, Lou, tell us how the audience can get in touch with you.
Absolutely. Well, the easiest way to get in touch with me is through my website at www.Florez, Florez, LoveKraft.com. And you'll be able to see all my upcoming lectures and publications, as well as if you want to read or what have you, learn more about any of the traditions that I have spoken about, you can contact me through there.
And I've had many readings with Lou, and you're phenomenal at what you do. And he comes from such a heart-centered place when he's doing it. Even when he has to break some hard news to me, he's like, Eddie, you know, you need to drop the martyr stuff. And I'm like, I'm pretending I didn't hear that. So
I know. But I think that it's just being able to hold that space, and hold it in an authentic way, as well as, one of the big things that one of my teachers taught me was, it's your job as a priest, it's your job as a spiritual worker, that if somebody's coming with challenge, that they don't leave that space until it has been turned into a blessing.
I love that. And my philosophy is when they come to see you, the way they come in, they should feel way better leaving you than they did when they came in. But that's because we're holding ourselves in that space, not holding them to there. We just hold the space so they can come up and play. How can people get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me on my website too. It's www.mobilelahealer.com, as I travel to people as well as let them come to me, so to make it convenient for them. Or my email address is billy@mobilelahealer.com.
That's perfect. And I've worked with you a lot, like a whole lot. And for the first 2 or 3 times we worked together, I would sit there with my mouth shut like, I can't stand this. I need to talk because of all the things I would see around him. I mean, just crazy stuff. And then it's so nuts to talk about certain things that I'm experiencing. And you not validate me. I'm not saying it for that reason, but how it's like I am seeing a lot of the same things that he's experiencing. It's crazy cool.
Right, or I'll put my hand somewhere and you'll see somebody like putting my hand there at the same time, and then you feel it. And it's good validation. It's good to have validation.
He'll be up here around the heart chakra. I'm like, are you touching my knees? And he's like, nope. It's just crazy cool.
Right. Sometimes other things are helping. So.
And Laurie, LoveKraft, tell us how we can get in touch with you, where we can see your writing, and when you're going to be teaching next, and all the good stuff.
Well, online at LoveKraft.com. That's LoveKraft. I also write for the Huffington Post, so you can look me up there. And my name is Laurie. I also teach mostly in the LA area right now, and you can find that on my website. And I also produce large public rituals, and I'm doing one in December with Starhawk, who's one of the founders of my tradition and is internationally known as a witch and much more. So all that's on my website and on the Astro, you guys.
And one final question, Lou, give us one tidbit, one sentence or less, one soundbite, one tidbit of something we can do every single day to enhance the quality of our lives.
Honor your own spirit and really pay attention to what it's telling you. And as long as you're in that alignment, everything else is kosher.
Love that. Billy?
Spiritual persistence is pretty important. Don't expect to get results right away, especially when you have a practice or you're practicing something that some person says has this type of result, and you do it once and it doesn't work. Just keep doing it and have persistence, and it should pay off.
That would work for dieting too, quite frankly.
For everything.
For everything,
guess,
but especially dieting, if you just stick with it. You know what I mean? That's crazy cool.
What? You can't eat Halloween candy?
Yes, you can.
For me, it's the earth is our mother. So, and there's chants, the earth is our mother, we must take care of her. So if the earth is our mother, then what do? How do we take care of the earth, and how do we take care of ourselves as spiritual beings? So
I love that.
I love that.
Thank you, Billy.
Thank you guys
Laurie.
so much.
Thank you, Lou. We appreciate it.
You guys are great. You guys are great.
Much love to everybody.
Much love. Lots of love.
Blessed be.
Back at you.
All right. Well, what we're going to do, Eddie, you did a great job.
Phenomenal.
You're so amazing at this.
I mean, hello.
Well,
look what we're working with.
That's I was more. Today I'm more of an observer because I just learning about everything going on, because I don't know much about each one, only through what Eddie and I have encountered on the show. So for me, it's been a learning experience, and I hope to have you guys back more in the future. And I might even call you about some healing. Work, but definitely you guys need to stick around. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to be talking to a gentleman, a psychic medium, and he's going to be doing maybe some pet psychic too.
Absolutely. Benjamin Scuglia.
Scuglia.
He
said
told us
it's,
to, say
think
it,
Italian.
Like Italian. You got to wave your,
Scuglia.
I guess your right hand. Yeah, Benjamin. And he's going to be doing some interspecies communication, and he's going to be doing his magic with Damona and with Melanie Benz.
And yes. And so what we're going to do, take a quick break and go get something to drink, but come back, and we want to wish you guys a happy Halloween. So don't go anywhere. On over Tony Sweet. Truth be told, I'm Tony Sweet.
I'm Eddie Connor.
I'm Walt Lusk.
And you are listening to us on Universal Broadcasting Network. All right, don't go anywhere. Be right back.